analysis is really all about you're interpreting, you're commenting on, you're explaining, your discussion of, or making connections between ideas for your reader. So it's really kind of what I like to say is answering the so what question. So in our writing, we include evidence from sources, either paraphrasing or quoting. We use that evidence, and then we need to explain to our reader, so what? Why does that evidence matter? What does it mean? Why am I including it in my writing? So I have some examples. So our first sentence, the one that's not in bold, says Townsend 2015. That's a sentence of evidence, right? It's a sentence where the writer has paraphrased the source. Next sentence is our sentence of analysis, the one in bold, right? It's taking that evidence and saying, this is what we need to do with it. This is what matters, or this is what this evidence means. It's really the place where the author is adding their own perspective to this information, right? So it's adding to it, it's kind of commenting on this evidence, it's inserting a little bit of the writer's own voice. So the next example we have here, Smith 2016 results are less likely to be generalizable. So what the author is saying here is that although Smith 2016 found a connection, we really can't generalize those results because there's too small of a population. So we're taking that information that Smith 2016 presented and we're commenting on it and saying, well, actually, although this is what they found, this is what the author found, we can't generalize it, right? So we're adding to this information, commenting on this evidence, explaining what it means or how we can use it, right? That's another way to think about this. Analysis is explaining how we can use this information or how I, as the author, might be using this information in my discussion. All right, another example. So this is a sentence of evidence, and then our analysis. Now this is a little bit of a different kind of piece of analysis, right? Because we're using the use of the first person, we're using I, and in this sentence, the author is taking what Dusick 2014 has said and applying it to their own context, to their own hospital. This is just another kind of analysis where what the student is doing is taking the information and applying it to their own context. And that's perfectly acceptable in certain situations and certain kinds of papers, right? In some of your papers, you're asked to reflect on your reading and apply it to your own organization or your own experiences. And this is a place where you can do that, right? You can use that evidence that you found and apply it to your own context and explain how it relates to your own experiences. As long as you're pairing analysis and evidence together, you only need to cite in that evidence sentence. So it's very clear in these examples, right, that the first sentence comes from a source, and then the second sentence, because there's no citation, that's where the reader knows that the author is adding their own analysis. So all of these are examples, all of these sentences in bold are examples of analysis, but they all are a little bit different, right? They all kind of take a different tone, they take a little bit of a different approach, and that's perfectly okay. Analysis is very personal to the individual writer. The approach you take is very individual to how you're using that evidence and your purpose for using that evidence as well. So analysis is really driven by the purpose of how you're using that evidence, okay? So it's really important to be very intentional with your analysis and think, okay, I've included this evidence, I've included this information from a source. Now, why did I include it? What do I want my reader to get from this information, okay? That's really what you want to sort of represent in your analysis. And that's why analysis is so important, because it's really about showing, as the author, your purpose for including information and how you're using it. So this is another way to think about it. What do you want the reader to walk away from that paragraph knowing, understanding, or believing? This can be a question you can ask yourself. You can write it down and have it on top of your computer or next to your computer or wherever you write. And when you include evidence in a paragraph, ask yourself, why did I include this evidence? What do I want the reader to walk away from this evidence knowing, understanding, or believing? And your answer to that question is your analysis, right? That's what you want to include and represent and state in that paragraph.